really know what to expect for LSU football going into 2025? I don't think that we do. I don't think that we do is because you're adding so many pieces from the portal. Guys, quite frankly, there could be a chance 3 of the 4 starting defensive linemen that you have are brand new. Now, you've seen what they've done in the ACC, the SEC with Pyburn. You've seen what Butler's done in the Big Ten. How is this going to work out? How does Weeks come back? What do you really do at linebacker without Greg Penn? Now, you could say, well, Greg Penn struggled. I'm not disagreeing with you on that. What do they look like on an every down? What does Donovan Keys look like on an every down with one of the Weeks brothers? What if it is just the Weeks brothers that are going to be there in certain situations? I do not know. But I don't think any of us do. I have a lot of questions on defense. Of course I do. I want to know what you're going to be and what you look like along the defensive line. How do you look at linebacker who's had moments of struggles? Guys, quite frankly, I don't care what you tell me. I think that you have talent at linebacker. I agree that we have talent at linebacker, but I also look at the more physical teams that we play, and when quarterbacks start running the football, we start having issues. That also goes on your linebacking core too. A lot on your D-line. A lot of that goes on your linebacking core too. So, again, you're giving up 250 yards on the ground in every game that you lost in the SEC this year per average. I don't know what to expect. I feel like that I have a pretty good idea mentally of what I could see. What I could see is Pyburn, and I could see Pat Payton standing up on the outside. Guys, I think that is something that we've seen from Blake Baker at Missouri. They're utilizing the portal to try to recreate what they did at Mizzou. Maybe more of the style of defense of what he wants to play. Forming it, molding it more into his likeness. Now, I will remind you, think about this. Blake Baker was just being announced as the head coach of our head coach, was just being announced the defensive coordinator at LSU around this time last year. Kevin Peoples was on the way. Bo Davis, you would have to wait a little bit. But now that you're going into a year 2, this is what Blake Baker wants. Now he starts getting in pieces that he thinks that he can win and play with. You brought him in. And I hope you're not bringing in guys and then bragging on you spending the money. But these are your dudes. Right, wrong, or indifferent. And some forward or combination in the interior, Sadir Mitchell, Dominic McKinley. What does Ahmad Bro do? There are a lot of questions there. I think you have some talented pieces, but how do you answer those questions? I feel really confident in Bo Davis to develop, get guys ready going into year 2. I think they play better with the guys that he had. Now he gets a sophomore and Dom McKinley coming in. How does all that transition? I don't know, but we're going to find out. Defensively, I see the talent and the potential. So I say all that to say I see so much talent from LSU that on paper, okay, it makes sense. Like, I don't know where you would be, but I feel as if that you can be better defensively because of just pure overall talent. Are you asking a true freshman to start at a boundary corner position? Does Mansour Delane have to move to safety because you've missed? What does that secondary look like? I can say this. From a defensive perspective, I'm not sure if there's not a bigger offseason or spring that I am more interested to see what they do at DB more than anything. Because I look at it and I say, well, Stamps is going in as a junior. What does Mansour Delane look like? What does DJ Pickett look like? Can he be a dude now? And if he can be a dude now, good. You need him. You need him now. I'm not completely sure that there hasn't been a spring. I know we could say 22, right? 22 was more offense for me because the whole thing replaced. Defensively, I still had linebackers. I still had corners, or not really corners. I still had defensive tackles. I had B.J. Ojolari, Jaquelin Roy. I had Micah Baskerville. I had trying to think the returners on that defense. I'm sure you guys are remembering a couple of them. You go and got Mekhi Wingo. I mean, we didn't know what he was going to be. But you also had Mason Smith, and if you don't lose him in game one, but we got to see Mason Smith in 2022 that whole offseason, pretty much. Listen, man, defensively, I have tons of questions. I see a much better talent outside of safety. I see the vision. How does that all pan out? I don't know. But my goodness, for me, I think it's the biggest question mark on this team right now based off of what you're going to get. Now, offensively, I look into this and I say, well, look, I got to see Tyree Adams at left tackle against Baylor. I got to see him sporadically throughout the season. His name never really came up in the games that he played. Well, why is that? Well, mainly due to the fact that he was just taking care of business. Every time that things are quiet, that means that you're doing a pretty damn good job. Actually, it means you're doing a very damn good job. Like the long run that Caden Durham had, both of them really, the 11-yard one and the one that went for like 16. Both are Tyree Adams massively winning blocks on both of them. Offensively, I've seen Paul Mabinga. I think, quite frankly, Paul Mabinga has gotten better in every single start that he's played this year. Every single game, it's of my humble opinion that Paul Mabinga has gotten better. You're bringing in the center in Braylon Moore, and your guard, Josh Thompson, just technically signed today. Technically, I guess. It'll be interesting to see what you do there. And it's going to be interesting to see what you do at right tackle. But looking at Josh Thompson, looking at Braylon Moore, I think along the offensive line, I feel like I have a better understanding because of the fact the Big Ten produces some really good defensive linemen. Go look at any NFL draft. It's going to be a ton of Big Ten defensive linemen that are in there. A lot, especially at edge. But I look at those two and feel very much more confident. Like I have questions about Jack Pyburn because he played half of a season. Even though he played well, can he be a full-time starter? There are things about Patrick Payton that I've heard about motor not being there. What do you get the best out of him? Well, Josh Thompson, everybody wanted. I was talking to some Ohio State buddies of mine, and they were like, we 100% would have taken him. 1,000% would have taken him. Wanted to take him. Tennessee, the same. Auburn, the same. You got him. Offensive line is going to be a question mark all throughout the year. And the biggest question mark that surrounds them is going to be, how do you run the football? Guys, you got to be better running in your run game. It is a must. Now, Braylon Moore and Josh Thompson are two starters at other places. bona fide starters, like guys that Virginia Tech and Northwestern, like they don't want to lose those dudes. But smaller school, they go to a bigger place. So there are some things I like on both sides, and I feel confident of what I'm going to get from Barian Brown, Aaron Anderson, Chris Hilton. If Chris Hilton's healthy, if he's healthy, I feel like I know what I get. A full, true Chris Hilton, I know what I get in every single game. Question is, can he stay healthy? There are some likes and dislikes that I have. I love your offensive weapons. I love you have a second-year quarterback coming back. I love that you have experience at defensive linemen, like very experienced with talent. Like I think that D-line, even though I got question marks on them, I do think that they're very, very talented. I love the explosiveness that you have. Like wide receiver room, tight end room. I love the Caden Durham and now Harlan Berry, guys. Like, look, man, Harlan Berry has a comp of Reggie Bush. People have put that out there. I don't know if he's that. If he's remotely in the same stratosphere, like even remotely close in the same stratosphere, you're going to have to get him touches. You're going to have to get him touches. Freshman Reggie Bush doesn't get in there. Now, that's some high praise. I'm not going there. I need to see it for myself. It's high praise. It will be interesting. But, man, I love the explosiveness. I think you can do some very good things. Wide receiver, DN, corner. I think Mansour Delane's a very explosive athlete. I mean, he's forced multiple fumbles. He's had multiple pickoffs, or balls intercepted. He plays man-to-man coverage really well. So it'll be interesting. There are some dislikes. Secondary at safety, can you and will you run the ball? Not only, and I've said this, I said it last week, I'll say it again here. I challenge anyone in this media corps to challenge me on the LSU run game, about this O-line always consistently being bad. That's not true. They weren't consistently bad against Alabama. The problem was, and I will go toe-to-toe with anybody on this, they tiptoed. Sometimes you got to just put your head down and get some yardage early. That's neither here nor there. Can you run the football? Regardless of our opinions, can you run the football? And then can you cut down on turnovers? What does Garrett Nussmeier look like going in spring? It's a big 3 months for him because he doesn't take, no time to take a break. It's a big 3 months for him. Do those things start reducing themselves and you go out there and you say, you know what, man? We've been out of practice this whole time. Garrett has not thrown a pick. He's not out here making bad decisions. You're a very talented bunch. You're a really, really talented group. I don't know if you're even close. I have no clue if you're even close to being a playoff team. No clue. I can see an argument. If you gave me the argument of LSU being a playoff team in 25, I will listen to it. Maybe I'm too biased and I'm just wanting that to happen, and very much may be the case. I could see the argument that you make. Hey, Garrett Nussmeier comes back. He takes another step forward. He reduces some of the turnovers. You got explosive wide receivers. What does Nick Anderson look like coming out of injury? I think that's a big deal that we need to focus on going into spring too. How does he look coming into spring? What does Barian Brown look like? Along with Chris Hilton and Aaron Anderson, with a quarterback that wants to stretch the ball down the field. Make no mistake about it. Don't let this year confuse you. If Garrett's got the ability to push the ball down the field, he's going to push the ball down the field. So what did you do? You ain't got dudes with speed. Want to throw it down there? Well, I'm going to give you a crap load of options to throw the football down the field. If that's what you want to do, Let's go ahead and do it. Fine by me. You double down instead of Garrett fixing things that you got to fix with Garrett. You went out and changed the system for him. Don't mind it. Don't necessarily mind it. It's a philosophy. Let's see if it works. I will take that. I will take that in the running game. You had a running back that got better, and Caden Durham. Maybe you start getting some stuff from Caleb Jackson, and you got a guard that's an NFL guard, and you played him at guard, and Braylon Moore's a really good center, and you just developed really well. And you chalk it up to DJ Chester wasn't ready, Garrett Dellinger wasn't good enough, and Miles Frazier wasn't good enough. Maybe. Maybe that's what you do. Even though I don't agree with you, like there's a thing that's out there on Miles Frazier. There's a film breakdown on Miles Frazier. I highly suggest that y'all go and watch it. You're going to see exactly what I see. You're like, damn, bro. Like, okay. Well, what does LSU do? Why does this is blocked perfectly? Why is LSU getting 2 yards? Why? Well, did Caleb Jackson just run into DJ Chester's back and he's got a wide open hole in the 5 hole or the BC gap? Like what are we talking about? I don't know. Defensively, I could see the argument of you being in a situation where your D-line was much improved. Linebacker play was much improved because of your D-line being really good. DJ Pickett's going to have to hit, and Mansour Delane would have to move to safety at this exact moment, or you have to figure something out at safety, and Mansour can stay at the boundary, and you figured something out there, and guys took big steps forward. But, man, make no mistake about it. I mean, I think that I could look at outside of quarterback. Outside of quarterback, you have questions. And even questions around quarterback to some extent. Like, can Garrett get better and going in? Interesting offseason, man.